Fuck. All right, we're rolling.
Rolling.
Planet B
Presents.
Cult and Culture Podcast.
Hey, welcome to episode 15 of Cult and Culture. This is Justin Pearson.
This is Luke Hinshaw.
This episode features W.T. Nelson of Geronimo and Trogotronic. I first met him on tour. He played in Bastard Noise for a while, and no offense to any of the other people in Bastard Noise, but when he was in the band, I think it was the best lineup. And Bastard Noise toured with the Locust, and at the very last day, I think probably the very last minute of tour where we were parting ways, he handed me the Geronimo CD, and I was like, who is this dude with like the craziest ability to make the most insane sounds? So with that being said, I mean, he's also just a totally strange guy, which I think that's a compliment, because I think all of our friends are pretty weird.
Strange but very positive. He was a very fun guest.
Totally. Yeah, so, I mean, it was cool because, my history with him goes back quite a bit. And then also his gear making and gear expertise. He's helped service stuff of mine. He's also hooked me up with some of his own pedals, and I don't know, the guy's he's very unique in so many different ways. But specifically, musically speaking, I think Geronimo is probably one of the most original bands. I mean, on every level, it's just insane. So it was cool to have him on, and it was cool to hear the history, and then also for him to dive into the pedal stuff too. I think that kind of embodied who he is. Yeah. If you haven't already, I highly suggest you check out Nelson's work, either his pedals or any of his music. He's on a few Bastard Noise records, and he's obviously on all the Geronimo records. Again, brilliant human being, great person, and we hope you enjoy this episode. I want to start off, if you could just kind of go through some of your resume, because I think, I met you through Eric Wood and that era of Bastard Noise, and then Geronimo, but I know you were involved with Sleestak, but like what other stuff? Because you have like kind of a crazy resume of, I don't want to ask you like, were you in this band, and it'd be wrong. So
I was playing I used to make tapes by myself, and actually since I was like a little kid, I'd make weird sound tapes, soundscapes and stuff, and then you would perform your own stuff. But I didn't know there was like a music that was like that. I didn't know people were doing that or whatever until I met Wood, actually. And he's like, there's these guys in Japan, man, check this out, there's this guy Masami Akita, and it's like, whoa, that's really intense. Okay. But so I was making stuff like that, and then play music with friends. I just remembered this the other day. I had some buddies, they had this band called The Gels from Hell, and I wanted to play music with them, but my hands are super tiny, so I couldn't. And they were just like, yeah, dude. And so I was like, well, I can do special effects. And so I'd build crazy things. Wow. And just horrible things. Like I got the bass player, and I was like, oh, you can make a plaster bass, like with the bandages. Yeah. I put them on that dude. Because he could stand still long enough, and then I put some found like some crazy wig on it or dreadlocks or something, and then I had this like shop vac in lieu of a smoke machine, and there was this one gig, some party that they were playing, and you'd take the exhaust of the shop vac, and I stuffed it full of flour before the Jackass antiqued thing, it just seemed like the thing to do, not knowing really that A, it's super flammable, and B, everyone's just gonna get worked. And so like, I don't know, it must have been like the big Gels hit or something. I fired that thing up, which was probably louder than the band anyways. And just like the drummer was, almost fell over because he couldn't, everyone was just like antique from one side, and they're like looking at me like, you jerk. So there was that. And then I started playing with that drummer, and we had this band called Carney A, the concept being that it wasn't Asada necessarily. It could be like Andromeda or like Alligator. Okay. Or whatever. Just any A word, like, and we're going to have all these releases and appearances, and it would always change. Like, whoa, what are they up to now? And then he let me play like I would make these tapes, and then I didn't have a turntable, and I didn't know how to scratch, but I would like have these tapes, and you could spin them fast. It sounded sort of like scratching. It was you could do rhythmic stuff, and then I had like this. I would run tape loops. I was really into like 1/4-inch tapes. I'd buy all these 8-track tape machines at the old thrift store there, and then Sabbath was, of course, always the best one to loop. I mean, just incredible. You could cut any part of Sabbath and just put it in there and it would work. But anyway, so I'd put the, tape loops of weird stuff. And then one time I took apart an 8-track machine, and I still have that. That's that instrument that's like, Woodsy's got a couple of those there.
Oh, yeah. It's like a disc or something, a metal disc?
That's the flywheel, and on the other side of that is the capstan that drives the tape. So I just flopped it. I know what I was trying to do. I was trying to make a thing where I could run the tape backwards and forwards and not have to like kind of pull it on the reels. Like make a loop. It would be a loop that you could move back and forth, but I was just too ham-handed at the time. But then I was like banging on it, and then something kind of resonated. I was like, wow, I wonder if I put like a string there. Or I was like, oh, well, I'll put a spring there. And that ended up being that thing, which I still haven't figured out a way to kind of... One of these days.
Do you sell those?
Not yet.
No.
One of these days.
So there's only like...
Patent pending.
Okay.
Patent pending. But no, no, it's going to be... I can never figure it out. But that kind of... That electroacoustic stuff it's tough. Henry's really good at that. From Amps for Christ there. He's a luthier by trade. And that kind of... You get over into the luthier stuff. There's a lot of kind of trial and error fiddling around there, where the electronics is more my wheelhouse now. Which he taught me that part too. I didn't really know electronics until I saw his stuff.
Which is, I mean, I remember seeing him, I think, when he was in Man is the Bastard, and I was like, what is this crazy shit? It just looked like, aesthetically, it blew my mind. Just
gorgeous.
Like the wood with marker and stuff, and like, then the most, like, the sheer punishing noise. But
beautiful too. That's what blew my mind the first time I heard it. It's like the most terrifying stuff you've ever heard, and yet it's coming to you in the most beautiful rendering. And that's the tubes.
Like chirping kind of stuff.
Well, it's not just that; it's the quality of it. Especially, it's the highs. It's just is rendered by those tubes. That's all tube stuff that he builds strictly.
And so, okay, so were you in Man is the Bastard?
I was for a while because my theory is that they needed someone with a van. Because those guys were so good, and I was just sort of like, okay, I have these tape loop things, and they're like, yeah, okay, we'll bring your van, and then, I always got kind of the feeling there. I don't know, it was probably just me feeling, that, what do they call it, the imposter syndrome. Because, those guys are all shredders, So, and then Henry was actually the one that kind of was like, hey, come with us, we're playing the Anti-Club.
So it was when they were a 4-piece with Henry, it was a 5-piece then.
Henry was the one who invited me. He got my foot in the door there, kind of. So then, I don't know. And I was trying to remember this the other day, like what came first. I mean, I knew Henry. I was friends with Henry for a long time. And I remember hanging out with my buddy from Carnier and the drummer Carnier, and they lived in this place in Claremont there. And he sort of moonlighted doing engineering. And there was a studio there at the packing house there in Claremont, and they were working on, I'm trying to remember which effort it was, but one of the Man is the Bastard recordings. He's like, hey, check this out, this guy. And I kind of knew who Wood was because he worked at this bakery, and I ended up working there as well with him. And Henry worked there as well. Like, everyone kind of worked, my girlfriend at the time and all that. So, and I can remember he played this thing to me, and it had that track, Refuse to Thrive. I don't know if you know it, but it was one of Wood's numbers that was like really short and really complicated and just unbelievable. And it was like, play that again, man.
Yeah.
We played it like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, please play it one more time after this. We were just cracking up because it's so unbelievable. And then next thing you know, somehow I kind of, I'm trying to figure out how that happened, but somehow, I ended up down at Henry's studio, and that's when I first saw his. I knew he made guitars. I knew maybe that I didn't really know he made amps, and then some of those amps kind of turned into those boxes as well, the preamps. Yeah, and I think he was like messing with amps and then sort of stumbled upon like, wow, this sounds really crazy. Working on stuff for guitars, and wow, this sounds pretty good on its own. Let's just put some more knobs on here, and then And I mean, that stuff to this day, I mean, bar none. I've seen that dude, you know, like at festivals and stuff, just walk in.
Henry or
Henry,
yeah,
yeah, with those boxes and just lay waste.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, nothing even comes close. It's true, yeah.
It's weird because I remember, you know, I knew the trio of Band as a Bastard, like from earlier days when I was younger, like playing shows with them, but it was when they introduced Henry, and then that like Patton did kind of like chirping sound, and I was like, what the fuck is this? It seemed so I don't know, like, and I don't mean this in any disrespect to them, but it was like almost like not a musical thing. It's like, here we have this kind of song, like this sort of like rock, you know, like this sick grooving bass lines, and then there's like a chirping like fucking alarm clock thing that just jacks up the whole track, and it and it's kind of rad, you know. But I was like, wow, what are they doing? Like, what are they? You know, in my mind, I was at the point where it was like music was structured in rock terms, you know, like there's the obvious instruments. I mean, if you had a synth, that's cool, but I was like, what is this thing that this noise is happening on top of the? It wasn't like written into the music. It was never. I feel like it was kind of like not the right time signature or so, you know, like I was just like, what is this? It seems random in a cool way.
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of bands that here and there where it's just sort of, it's almost gratuitous.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and part of the thing that fuels like what I'm doing is whether or not I've you know, make it any better or not, but is that I think that, you know, I mean, I make stuff for people who just hit play more or less and stuff, and the whole thing just kind of does its thing.
Sure.
And that's cool. But the thing that makes me like the most compelling thing is interacting with people in a band, and it's not just turning something on.
Yeah, because there are pedals where like that I have of yours where I'm like, this is, it just writes its own song. Like I don't have to do anything.
Which is
cool.
Fine. But I mean, that's sort of like showing up with, I mean, you know, just canned music sort of like, you know, which is it's trickier. It's much harder to pull that off in a way. I mean, so I've seen, I was just thinking about this the other day. I saw Bjork one time, and for whatever reason, a lot of it was canned. I think there was people playing, but it just seemed most of the good stuff, they were like, let's make it sound like the record, and they played this stuff, and this is a long time ago, but you could tell it was just sort of like, you know, they hit play on sort of some of these digi parts, and somehow they just locked in, and it was just, you know, I mean, you know, it's cool at a bar, you know, and you got the piano guy, and then he's got the drum machine. It's cool, but like that somehow came out flat. But then again, I seen Kraftwerk at the same venue, and I thought this is gonna suck, and they killed it. Yeah, and I couldn't tell you what was different. Now, I mean, was it analog versus what? Maybe, but I don't know. Maybe that's because they've been doing that for so long. You know, I mean, they weren't always an electronic band.
Yeah, but they were kind of the first, like, weren't they the first like modular synth band? I think there was something.
Maybe
I heard this really crazy interview with one of the people associated with the band, and they were like, there was like nothing that predated it, I guess.
I kind of like them before they were electronic, like the what do they call it, the cone era, the safety cones. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. But it was still had like,
no, it was more cannish. It was grooves, and they had flutes. One guy would be pumping on. I'm a big flute nut.
Okay.
So, I mean, full disclaimer, I do like the flutes. I do. I love it in, like, you know, sambas and whatnot. You know, as soon as the flute comes on, I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, also some of your pedals sound like it could be a digital flute.
Oh well, thank you. You know, Henry was always going for the bagpipes, but no flutes. There's something about a flute. Yeah, but anyways, I don't know what the difference was, and so it's trickier. It's definitely trickier, especially if you're just hitting, you know, or what was that guy, Kid 606, you remember that?
Yeah.
And it's just sort of laptop, and you know, you better have a good light show.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's all that electronic stuff. Like you got your, I don't know, I don't really even know this stuff, but like, you know, you got your Dead Mouse and all this stuff. But I think they do have light shows.
They do, and Dead
like
Mouse
they got billboards in Vegas. These guys.
Yeah, but he had like a cool helmet or whatever that he wore too.
Helmets are well. Who put the helmet on first? This is what I want to know. But no, I don't know. It's I think or maybe they gotta have light shows, right?
Yeah.
Those big things.
But you know what? Like when you went to see Kraftwerk compared to when you went to see Bjork, you went to see Kraftwerk because it was like this full band and you expected a thing. When you went to see Bjork, you know Bjork. You don't know like necessarily. I mean, I know she played with Brian Chippendale from Lightning Bolt at some point, but like you're not.
That would be good. That would be a good show.
He played something with her, but you know what I'm saying. Like if he was her drummer, then you'd have a different expectation. You'd go and you'd see a different kind of thing. Like
especially if he was out in front. You know what I mean?
Well, you know why he's probably not in the band with her is because he would steal the fucking show. No offense to Bjork, but like that guy just steals the show.
I mean, maybe they should have just got rid of the one guy in the Sugar Cubes. It was just sort of like the Flavor Flav dude.
Was he? I think he was a real singer.
Was he?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that B-52s thing. Like I love the B-52s, but sometimes it's like the other part, the vocal, sort of the spoken word part. Is like,
yeah.
Just let the ladies sing, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do wonder though, because comparing Kraftwerk to Bjork is a tricky thing, because Bjork is typically known as like, a singer with this sort of electronic music behind her, where Kraftwerk is a band.
Look, you put on one record, you put on the other record, and they're both great.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Whatever. That's great. But no, I was just talking live.
Translating live. Yeah.
Live, and it comes back to this thing where it is jarring. There's some music like back in the MITV genre, like where it's sort of, okay, we got to have this noise guy, and then it's just sort of like this thing, and it doesn't. Yeah. Is it locked in? Is it not? Now when Henry's playing it. There's this other kind of music here that's, I don't know, it's what do they call that? Cut up noise. You guys heard of this?
Yeah, there's a split, MITB split with some band that's like that. It's all like just crazy, like not. It's like different songs cut together, right, on a tape.
Yeah. Actually, there was one called Aunt Mary.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That was early, and that was his tape. And I think the dude was just hitting the pause button with a drummer. Yeah. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's
sounds
like playing
awesome,
hardcore.
but it makes no sense musically.
Oh, but it's beautiful. So here's my point is, I went to this fancy art school, right? And they had this unbelievable vinyl collection in the library, and you could just go in there and like check out whatever. And there was all this like kind of highfalutin ivory tower, academic stuff that was, for lack of a better word, I mean, it's just so random that you're just like, okay, man, like I get it, it's weird, and I tend to go on the softer side of that, where I'm a little more into like. I like the minimal stuff. I like Reich, whatever that dude's name is, or like Philip Glass, little trite, but John Adams, huge John Adams fan, and but I mean it's real simple and it's just real straightforward, sort of like the Geronimo stuff. It's just as simple as can be, like just stupid simple, though not melodic necessarily. But anyways, so that some of that random stuff, and then we used to play with John Weiss was sort of part of that Bastard Noise thing. And then,
so wait, was there a Bastard Noise lineup that was you, Weiss, and Wood? Interesting.
I think like early aughts. Yeah, and yeah, he's a great player, no doubt about it. But then he was getting kind of into that cut up thing, kind of before that. I think became a thing. I don't know. I can't keep track of it because I listen to just. I listen to country more than I listen to noise, really. I mean, honestly, it's cool once in a while or whatever, but I don't know what's going on all the time. And
but that might be like a cool way to approach something, not being part of. Like I always refer back to like when I always refer back to like this interview with Gabe Serbian where they asked him like what hardcore bands does he listen to, and he said he doesn't listen to hardcore, he just plays it. And I was like, that's a great kind of concept, or what not concept, what I'm saying, like that's good, because then you're not influenced by
and then it's not derivative. Yeah, because it's so easy to go like, okay, well, let's do that maybe, and even if you're not trying to, it's naturally gonna happen. But anyways,
so the country seeps into Geronimo maybe a little bit?
I hope so. Just check the vocals tonight, man.
Yeah, okay.
But anyways, so we was doing some of that early, and then we were talking about like, let's do a split, man, and we were going back and forth. I was just teasing him. I go, well, but that's that one thing you do. I'm not really into the cats in the kitchen. That's what I threw at him, the cats in the kitchen there. And he got kind of mad about that there. Well, what if I just put silence on the other side? I was like, okay, man. Well, anyways, but the point is that there are some people, like there's this guy does this thing, Facial Mess, which is now he's doing this thing called Like Weeds. and his name's Kenny Sanderson.
Oh yeah.
And he and there's another guy, Chris Goudreau. He does this thing, Sickness, and then I think he plays stuff under his own name. I'm not quite sure how it works, but those guys, and there's a whole bunch of this. There's this whole genre where these guys are just like working joysticks and buttons or whatever, and just cutting stuff up as randomly as possible. And what blows my mind is some guys, it makes sense, and I couldn't tell you why. Like, is there an underlying beat somehow in their heads that I'm hearing, or it's like free jazz with totally random noises. Well, not. Is it random? See, I have trouble kind of and that's what I like about it is like.
Well, random in the sense that it's not like this note or this, BPM.
Well, but it's not even. So, okay, you could have like a bunch of whatever kind of stuff, but this is that, and then the beat is random. It appears to be like it's coming at you for over here, it's over there, and it's hard to explain, but it's that cat's in the kitchen thing. But why is that better than that academic stuff, or like maybe when Weiss was just trying to like get started at, I mean, who knows, maybe he's really good at it now, or I don't know what he's up to now, but why does it, or is it me? Do I understand it on some level? Am I brainwashed by it? I don't know, but I kind of like it actually.
Yeah. I mean, maybe there is a internal rhythm that's happening, because I've seen Wood play a lot by himself, or like as Bastard Noise, usually with a vocalist or something, but like where he's doing most of the noise components, and I'll watch him, flip a switch or push a button on usually Trogo gear or whatever, but I'll try to, most people are like, I don't know what people are getting out of it, but for me, it is like, not that like an academic thing, but I'm trying to figure it out. So I'm like watching him being like, all right, is this a BPM? I'm like, no, he just fucking switched something. What's the, like, where is he getting the, like what drives him to go like, this is the time to switch the thing, like what is he hearing? Like,
I think he hears it in his head.
Yeah.
Just like when he plays bass, I think he hears it in his head. He already knows.
Maybe it's like when he gets comfortable with something, he changes it.
Yeah. Like this tone's been going on long enough.
You think you figured it out, and then you didn't.
Oh, I think he's hearing it. I think he's hearing it, and I think he's going directly hearing it and playing it.
Yeah. But and
like he brings this other thing to it because he played
bass
first, and so he's man. And same with Henry. And I think Henry has that same timing thing, where it seems random, but actually I wonder sometimes, like, does he? Okay, is there this other structure that's more complicated?
So Henry coming from, like, I mean, you were in Amps for Christ too?
No, I played with him once or twice, but I can't keep up with him really, because he can just wing stuff, and I have to practice things over and over again.
But then he also plays it's like country music.
Some of it, some folky. What
do you like?
What was he calling Musnick and oh shit, he got all these crazy. He's amazing with these words, but what was it called? Anyways, folk, for a lack of a better word, I would say. I would,
Everyone kept saying like, "What the fuck? This is country music." When I forgot what record it was that came out, but I was like, "That's probably a brilliant move." And if if it's his thing, like, good for him, like, But the critics were like, I think, like, taken back by that.
Man, that same house where I heard that first Man Is a Bastard record, he lived downstairs. These guys lived upstairs, and he'd sing them to sleep sometimes, playing just like just beautiful stuff there on the front porch. Yeah. I mean, I think he's just interested in more than one thing, and then sometimes he puts them together, which is, try it. As Wood says, try it, because like he pulls it off, but
puts like the noise and the like folk
together, and then sometimes his vocals are unbelievable. Like I think it's probably underrated. I think people kind of think about other stuff he's doing, but that's the whole package. He's got like a record or two that were like some of my favorite records of that year, bar none. And I know the guy. Like, it shouldn't. I don't know. You wouldn't think. It's weird.
Thinking your friends have the best record.
Kind of. I'm like, how did I even know this? It doesn't. It doesn't.
I feel like my friends make me like their record even more. Like they're my, like Luke. I like his records so much more. I think I would like him if I didn't know him at all. But like, I'm like, oh my god, I really think his stuff's great. I also think he's great. Right. So
maybe I do. Yeah, I do love Henry. So
yeah. Okay. So it's like that maybe. Kind of perspective.
But no, I think it would still be. There's a couple there that are just so unbelievable. Yeah.
But it was kind of like how we toured when the Locust toured with Bastard Noise, and you're like, oh, here, check out my other band. And I was like, you gave me the first Geronimo album, and you were looking for a label, and I was just like, where did this come from? Why did it take so long for me to find this perfect piece of music? Like I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit, but like that's the thing is like we spent so much time together on tour, and I was like, this guy's fucking awesome, and he has this band that is the best thing I heard at that point. So I was like, oh, so
yeah. I mean, it was different than what me and Wood were up to there for sure. I mean, it's especially without a drummer.
Yeah.
There, I mean, that was.
But I think that so okay, you did your stint in Bastard Noise, pre-drummer, which was the Gravity release.
Well, no, I was playing with Wood back. I mean, pretty close to the beginning of it. I think they had a couple releases before that. So as soon as I was doing the noise with the band and whatnot, then I started recording with Henry and Eric there. Then I took kind of a break, and then Weiss was there. That was like right around the aughts, and I started doing my own thing.
This is like just Bastard Noise.
Right, just as Bastard Noise, because I at a certain point I started working in LA, and I couldn't do it all the time, because I would have to drive out to Pomona. It's like 30 miles, and it's 30 LA miles,
which is like 4 hours.
So yeah, and sometimes I drive out there and they're like, we canceled practice.
Yeah.
So anyways, but I kept playing with those guys, just doing the electronic stuff, and that was fun. And then meanwhile, I was playing with Moises and Anthony and this other guy Yusin, and we did Sleestak.
Okay.
And we did that up until.
What'd you play in Sleestak?
Just the same stuff, electronics, and then at the end, I started bringing the Rhodes, which was a pain because it's super heavy.
Yeah.
So I would play Rhodes with, and then tweak out the stuff. And that was, I think, before I was building electronics per se. I was playing like a Radio Shack. What do you call that? Their little mixing board.
Oh.
A realistic. I played the realistic is what I played with like a pedal, and I took it and I rammed it back into the old. Somehow I used the phono channel or something, and I started getting scared. Like, okay, when this thing dies, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And then I talked to Henry, and I said, "Hey man, help me build I want to build a mixing board with tubes and stuff." And then and that took probably 3 years of messing around. And when I finally got that, then I kind of learned
why did you want tubes in a mixing board?
Who doesn't want tubes in a mixing board?
But what was your not your goal, but like you were very cautious. I need to get a mixing board with tubes because
I could fix it.
Okay.
I figured if I knew how to make it, then if something went wrong, I could fix it. Whereas the realistic, I knew nothing about chips.
Yeah.
And so I sort of was like, if this thing dies, then I'm out of luck because this is my sound, man.
Yeah.
So then I built this crazy thing with Henry's help. He helped me, kind of with the topography there. Showed me how to build power supplies, because that's the first thing you learn when you do tube stuff is the power supply. And then
to not overpower the.
Well, because tubes, they have like 2 or 3 different kinds of power. They have sometimes they have a negative bias on a negative voltage. Sometimes then they have a voltage for the heaters, the part that glows, and then they have a voltage to make the sound, and the voltage to make the sound is generally for preamps it's about 200 volts. So right there, you don't just get some wall wart and plug it into something.
Yeah.
You have to actually build it for yourself and a lot of stuff like in any electronics, I don't know if that's tube, but is all made for low voltage because it's cheaper to make. So you have to buy special components that won't explode when you start charging them up like that. So, and they're a little more expensive, but they have all, you can get all that stuff. And so I just figured, oh shit, well he knows how to do this. My dad was actually an electrical engineer too. So so I'd been around it, and I figured, he kept saying, oh, you can do it. Yeah, it's not that hard. You just follow the schematic, and I'd look at it, just look like gobbledygook. And I'd go, okay, yeah, sure. And then Henry, of course, he just, here, check this out. Pull it out of the spiral binder. Here, this is what you need. This is what here's how it looks, and this is that, and whatever. So we went over a couple times, and then, like I said, probably took 2 or 3 years.
And then were you interested in like like circuit bending and stuff, or
No, I mean, just because everything I touched just went up in smoke, kind of thing. With I don't know. If you don't know what you're doing with this, with solid state stuff, the low voltage stuff, if you touch the wrong thing, it just. Or tubes, they're hard to blow up. So I have bent some tube circuits. So I guess, as far as like taking a tube circuit that exists, maybe a preamp or something, and then kind of messing with it. So I have done that. And we actually sell there's a Trogotronic, like the flagship model is this thing that's like an old piece of test equipment. And that thing's hacked. But it's got its own board now. It's a whole different thing. But it uses, really what it uses the power supply, which is hard to make because it's got these special components, and you get them, you get the core, and then you can use that.
And that's one of the Trogotronic like pieces that you sell? Or
yeah,
what
that's
is it called?
The Valkyrie.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I guess it is circuit bent, but it's really now, it's got its own board. I gut the thing, and there's a couple really kind of exotic items in there that they made for real. I mean, there's this one thing behind this big knob that's, it's probably 6 inches long with these plates that kind of come in and out. It's a variable capacitor. And then there's some transformers in there that are pretty unbelievable, and it's got a 600 volt power supply.
Whoa.
So, it's the real deal, and it was made by ladies in Palo Alto. I'd seen the factory, and they got them in there with the soldering away. They're really cool.
Your stuff is made by
the core.
I see.
It's upcycled.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But that's a mean machine. That's a real sweet. In fact, I don't have one. I'd like to get one. And one of these days I will make the time there. But I have my core put aside, a special one. But that's a sweet. So once in a while, when I'm making one, as it goes out the door, I get to record with it and mess around. Okay, it works, and whatever.
So at some point, it seemed like there was this. I guess, and maybe I'm like not fully educated or naive about this, but like when my introduction was like obviously Man as a Bastard, and then the Bastard Noise stuff seemed like because I think the first Bastard Noise thing was like a mistake maybe with the Locust Man as the Bastard split is actually Bastard Noise because there's no drums on it and it's just noise. But like I don't want to say just noise, but you know what I'm saying, it wasn't like there wasn't any bass.
No,
and drums.
you mean like a mistake or a trick?
I don't know what it was.
Maybe it was a dirty trick.
But it was called Man as the Bastard.
Noise.
I know, but there's still like this sort of like mutated phase where wasn't like this is the thing, Bastard.
No,
because
the drummer and the other bassists were pissed about that one too, I think.
Yeah,
actually.
But it also had
like,
Josh from Honeywell on it and stuff. So what?
Yes, in fact, I think if it had Josh on it, then that was recorded in Normal Heights.
Huh? Why would that happen?
That's because we recorded with
Matt Anderson.
Yes. Yes, at that studio. I think it was called Normal Heights. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the area. So
Bakersfield. Yeah.
Bakersfield. There you go.
So
if that was that one,
but there was like that was kind of the close to the end of Man as the Bastard then, and then Eric took over Bastard Noise, and then it was like after a while drums were introduced to Bastard Noise, and then it was like this sounds like fucking Man as the Bastard now again or whatever, similar I guess.
Yeah. I think how it happened was I think Kenyon gave Wood a bass. And then he started messing around with it, and he was kind of like sheepish, like, well, what do you think if we brought that? I'm like, dude, let's do this. Yeah, cool. Because I mean, it's fun. It's fun knobbing around, but it's really hard. I mean, I think we played a show with you all, and maybe it was on the way back on that tour. I think it was in Arizona, and the sound, and some soundmen they got an axe to grind, man.
You are insane not having your own sound engineer because people they're probably just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, well, and then they're just like, I'm on to you, you jerks, and then they turn whatever. I don't know. They're like, they're gonna blow up my system. This is not made for what is this? A test record? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's tricky. So, and if you don't have good sound, it's like the Kubrick thing, right? You know how that thing. Kubrick had this idea that like if the movie got a bad review, he would supposedly go to the theater if it was in England when he was living over there, and like 9 times out of 10 the sound sucked.
Whoa.
So it's really tricky because if you don't have a drummer that can kind of cut through the room anyways, and they're messing with you, or they just have a crappy PA,
or they just don't care,
or right. If it sucks, let's just put it this way: if it sucks, then it could ruin the show. Whereas if you're a regular band, at least you're jumping around and doing things, and there's this whole other level of interaction that is not possible if you got tables. I mean, if you got tables and you're looking at some knobs, and again, this is something I've thought about a lot, and I don't understand why. Again, I mean, dude, when I saw Kraftwerk, backs were to the audience. Backs were to the audience. You know, it was like, you know, the Miles Davis thing. Well, so why? Why was it unbelievable? I don't know. I still don't. I mean, it's one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Wow.
And maybe it's because I walked in thinking, "No, this is going to suck," but I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on it, but there's something to it. Whereas, like, I thought, well, shoot, if we have a drummer and you're playing bass, I mean, we can't go wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, no matter what,
Yeah.
you know, this people. I mean, it's an unbelievable spectacle. First of all, seeing Wood play bass is not that the other thing isn't.
Yeah.
But it's just so you can see it happening in front of you, and you can see what's coming out. If you see a bunch of knobs and switches, you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, he is definitely theatrical with his
Yes,
knobs
he
and
is.
switches.
To I mean, great effect and credit. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that he brings that to it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen him walk around with stuff
Yeah.
and
But I don't think it's a gimmick. I think he's like
no,
really on that.
he's trying to, you know, do it just.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it is he plays it like he plays anything else.
Yeah.
He doesn't look at it like it's a different thing, and that's you know, of course, me wanting to play with the old gels there, you know, and doing that other stuff,
Yeah.
and thinking like, oh wow, is this in trying to make it like, well, this is legitimate. Actually, I think this could actually add to it, and that's why I really like playing with other people. And if everyone's playing electronics, it's just trickier. It's a harder sell. I think.
Yeah.
Live, it's great in the studio. Why not? You know,
Sure.
all day long. But live, it's just a really tricky thing. I think you need like a sound man, and then a visual guy to give you something to work with.
It is true because so like when you gave me the Geronimo, you know, album to that became the first, you know, the first thing that 31G did with you guys, I was like already accustomed to it. And then when I saw you play live, I think it was at the Black Panther headquarters in Los Angeles. It was some sort of festival kind of thing, and it was outdoors, and I loved it. But I went and I was like, it sounds terrible because it was outdoors. I don't think that they knew. Like, I think there was like regular music playing otherwise, you know, like
Right.
like a regular band, instrumentation wise, you know, like and then there's like this weird shit, and I think it just didn't translate well, and I was like, fuck, like that's not what I wanted to happen, you know. And maybe it's the opposite of how you would to see Kraftwerk, because I went thinking like, this is my favorite new band.
Right.
But fuck, it's like outdoors on this like janky wooden stage with like, you know, just the worst PA speakers. Like it
right.
was,
And it was all back-to-back bands all day kind of thing.
yeah,
4th
sure.
of July. Yeah.
So I do see what you're saying. I think it, you know, it lost that element.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's tricky too if it's outside and the drums aren't mic'd and you don't have a really good sound system.
Yeah.
It seems like you can get a lot. Well, just like we're talking about in the, you know, out just what were you saying? And then in the storm drains and whatnot.
Oh, the sewer, yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. Or like the proverbial like kind of storefront with brick walls.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
just a nightmare, you know. But then again, you know, saw a lightning bolt in that situation. It was like, you know, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
But with Lightning Bolt, it's like you have the acoustic drummer and you have the bass with,
Right.
with like a shitload of amps for one person, and that's it. It's not like, you know, because I feel like when I saw you guys at that show, because I've seen Geronimo, like the show that we played with the Locust and you guys in whatever, like pre, you know, COVID, that was the best. It sounded fucking amazing. It was amazing. It was a great venue. Like everything was mic'd really well. That it was perfect. But in context to the other show, it was just like, you know, we were like on asphalt outside, and it was like, you know, and there was not.
And it just was open,
Yeah.
too. So
And I
that's
think that-
tricky. I don't think they really had the PA for that.
No.
And well, the other thing is just like, you know, talking about like, I mean, I am still working on a table, so that's tricky. And Anthony isn't exactly. I mean, he is truly the lukewarm water there. As far, I mean, that dude, he's not doing knee slides or nothing. So it's really about Mo, which is cool because he is kind of the I mean, not the heartbeat of the band, but he really is. I mean, he's the guy who instigated the whole thing in a way, and
The whole band?
Yeah, I mean, both Sleestak and that. I mean, he really, you know, he writes. We all write together,
Yeah.
but I mean, that dude, he's a deep thinker, man, with this
Well,
stuff.
also you can tell when he performs there's something else going. It's almost
That's
like wood.
right.
You're just like, what the fuck? Like it makes you feel uncomfortable watching him perform in a awesome way. You're like, what is this guy? Is he possessed? Like where?
Yeah, is
what's
he
this-
going to hurt himself?
yeah.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that in a band. Yeah, where it's
Especially when it does come to, and I'm not trying to downplay his beats because I think what he comes up with rhythmically is awesome, but it is almost like this minimalist approach.
Yeah.
And you're like, and it's hard to fucking play that stuff. What fills in the blank spaces?
Ask Sal.
There's this, I know.
Ask Sal, yeah, it's tough.
Sal's a
It's-
motherfucker. He's another, yeah.
It's tough, but I mean, there's and the funny thing is, at that time, Sal has all these killer fills and all this stuff. I was like, man, this guy's amazing. And then there's that one track that we did that starts that record. And it's just like the kick for like 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
That drove him
Yeah.
bonkers.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's like you're in a war with yourself
Sure.
to not. Okay, where was I or something? I mean, I couldn't do that.
But
There's
with
no
the
way.
Geronimo stuff, that is crazy though, because it is the payoff is so great. It's like, yeah, I mean, Sal, or, like even when I was in Some Girls with Sal, it's like we would just come out of the gates just blasting,
Right.
But if you can just fuck with people for 10 minutes of only simplistic kick and then deliver, like then you're just like, oh my God,
Right.
that is so, that's like you win the lottery 5 times in a row, once or whatever.
Part of the fun was originally we were going over to Japan, just me and Mo originally before Anthony joined, and then it was just me and some weird boxes, kind of Silver Apple style.
Oh, cool.
And like part of it was
What was
like
that called?
Geronimo.
Oh,
Yep, and that was in probably 04. And we were just kind of goofing off because Anthony was doing his PhD.
Uh-huh.
He wasn't around, and so we were just like, well, let's just do this. And I knew some people over there. I wanted to go over there. I was courting Kiyomi, so I was like, oh, cool. We'll just do this whole thing. And the whole concept was like, because that whole Osaka sound is pretty. I mean, there's some challenging stuff going on over
you mean
there.
harsh noise?
No, I'm talking about bands and stuff
Oh.
where it's just like Zenigiva.
Oh yeah.
Mega favorite there, and just all that whole, I mean, what was that band we were down here? Was it the Casbah, like Afri Rampo? Remember those guys?
No.
Those gals.
I never heard.
Yeah.
They were trippers. And it's just all this abstract stuff. Like let's mess with people,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to really mess with people because they've seen this crap before.
Yeah. So do you think that that's part of Geronimo's thing?
Well, that was originally like, okay, so let's just play this stupid thing for 10 minutes and see if
Yeah.
anyone cracks.
Yeah.
And and it's, I mean, there's certainly been shows where it's like, my kid could play this.
Yeah.
Which kills me every time. It's just like, yeah.
But
Yeah,
their
they
kid
could.
probably couldn't though. They'd get bored or get anxious.
But that's, yeah, because it does, yeah, no, I mean, it just hurts, yeah.
But it's funny too because that's a good. I mean, Sal should know better because we did that song "Death Face" and Some Girls where we, it's 10 minutes and it's one.
No,
thing.
no, it wasn't like he was against it. It just had trouble.
Being chill.
No, just try and do that kick for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
That's
because
all
he
I'm saying.
wanted to do more shit. Like
No,
Oh.
he couldn't. Well, maybe.
What do you mean?
Couldn't.
Like he couldn't do it? Like he'd fuck up?
Yeah, because you're like if it's like hold your arm in the air for 5
Yeah.
minutes, and you're like, oh, this is no problem.
Yeah.
But like 2 minutes in, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
It's one of the. It's just like you're fighting with your mind. Though that's more of a strength thing, I guess. But you know what I mean? Like hold your breath for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's just it seems simple. I didn't realize that. I had no idea that was the case until it was the case, and I thought, wow, that's interesting. So basically, what I'm saying is Mo he's a freak of nature. This is, I mean,
Well,
that's
especially
the long
because
and the
he
short of
played
it.
with Beck and stuff. I mean, he's obviously.
Oh, he's a
pretty diverse
great.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
So-
a great player. Yeah. And I mean, I forget some of the people he studied with there. He studied with some jazz guy. I forget which one. I
Yeah.
mean, just casual. I don't know how serious it was, but no, he's got rhythm. I
Yeah.
mean, he's definitely got it.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes I'm looking at him doing it, and I just,
Well, no offense to you guys, but when he plays, I mean, I'm laser focused on him.
that's it.
Yeah, I'm like,
I agree.
What
Yeah.
the fuck? But out of all of it, I mean, I obviously love the bass tone and all the sounds that you're making. I'm like, there's so much fucking crazy shit, but I gotta focus on this.
No,
dude.
but that's it. It is, and Anthony has this thing too. He says, Mo, look, if you have a good show, we have a good show.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you
No,
screw
it's
up,
true. Yeah.
it's totally true. Yeah,
Yeah.
because if he has a bad show, then there's nothing we can do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know Anthony's got like the easiest job. He's just like,
I don't know. It looks hard to me, but because I can't do none of that. Yeah, I feel like mine's easy, but I am good at screwing it up.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing, but just depends.
So with the Trogotronic stuff, like do the like I mean I like we kind of acknowledge some of the effects make their own songs. Like you don't have to really be talented, or you don't have to be like.
What's he trying to say?
Well, okay, I've gotten some of your
Yeah.
pedals, and I'm like,
Yeah.
fucking A, this. We even have what's the Rainbow Machine, the Earthquaker pedal. It's
I
like,
only give you the crappy ones.
it's like no, but I remember like getting shit from you and being like, man, I can't fucking play bass into this. I have to
Right.
like put everything down and just hold it. And it sounds beautiful and awesome and fucked up, but I'm like, I need to play bass through this, and it's not. It just
There's one right now that Frank Marshy's playing through. It's unbelievable, and I'm like, you're doing it with that, and it doesn't even have a stomp,
huh.
and it sounds that's my tone, and it sounds good. I'm like, okay, I gotta. So that's one of the things.
I'm not saying like all of your shit's like that, but I mean there are some pedals where you're like, this is gonna write that song, like it's already on that level.
So my thing with the whole thing is, and it's being such a layman at it is, so we did that record with Michael Rose on the record that you put out,
Yeah,
right?
the first one,
and at that time. I had worked with them with Eric on the Bastard Noise stuff, and
So okay, those kind of were really close to each other as far as when they were recorded, right? 'Cause
they're overlapped.
Rogue
yeah.
Astronaut, right? Oh, they overlapped.
They I mean, all that stuff was kind of going on at the same time.
Because I feel like, and this is no offense to Wood, but I think that is his best work, and it might be because you're on that record, but I think that's his best work to date.
Well, you're talking the
Rogue Astronaut album.
But it's different because that one we actually wrote. We approached it like Geronimo approaches writing a song. We wrote songs. Mm-hmm. That's the difference, and it's not just something where. And I'm not saying that the other songs aren't written, but the other stuff's a lot more
free jazz.
No, I would say some of it's almost like it's I looked this dude up. You were saying something about sci-fi noir.
Oh.
This is the thing. I was like, this is the sci-fi noir thing. That was trying to start this genre from scratch. I couldn't believe I saw that. Well, anyways, this kind of thing where it's almost like that's the thing. It's dark and it sounds like science fiction. It sounds like a soundtrack.
Yeah,
it's very visual and there's stuff going on. It's a totally different thing. Where here's something where it's like, okay, let's make an electronic, band, and play electronic music, where this other stuff's more like let's swing for the fences and make like a soundtrack kind of thing without a movie because nobody cares about us. So, but that's really what it is. Honestly, in a way, it's like you got classical over here and then you got like rock over here. It's two different things completely. So when you're writing that, it's a different thing. You're not trying to get like a hook. And you're writing this, I don't know, not that I'm great at hooks or anything, but you know what I mean? Like,
but there is like crazy weird melodic hooks in your gear that you have, like this tones,
pitching, but it's how you play it is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So that record was the only time we really tried to do that.
So on that record, there's no drums, but a lot of the stuff sequenced through your gear.
But there is, there's electronic drums. There was like a
like a pad or something, right?
No, what do you call that thing? It was a synthesizer. It was
you have that on your table, right?
Yeah, and I would play bass through that when we were playing with Connell.
Oh,
and that lineup.
Whoa.
That was kind of the bass backing up Wood because Wood sounds basically guitar.
Yeah,
it's very bright.
Yeah,
and he's noodling, and so there's bass under there. It's mixed way back, but that's kind of back pushing, kind of backing it up, which I'm really bad at. That was a real push. To kind of, that's not my wheelhouse. But that thing has drums built into it. What was that thing called? Alesis. The Alesis Ion. So all that stuff's built around that. We would have these sequences, whatever, like kind of canned stuff there. And there you get back to the canned thing. That's why it's tricky, because you're kind of like letting that part go and you're playing along with it and he's singing along with it.
Yeah.
So there's beats.
But aside from the canned stuff, though, so like in Geronimo, the drums have triggers, right, that are running through your gear?
That's true, yeah.
Then it's totally not canned.
Yes, but he's playing it. I can tweak it.
Yeah, but that's not canned.
No, it's not, and it's beautiful. He calls it dub. Turn on the dub them drums right there. Yeah,
okay,
that sounds cool. Man, yeah. So, and it sounds amazing.
I wish
that part. I love that.
People that made, dub we're hip to that shit. Like, make it sound like
Me too.
from another planet. Like,
Yeah.
dub from another planet would be so much better than
And
dub
then-
from, Jamaica or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, or like what's that band Clipping?
Yeah.
And then what's that other one? Death Grips.
Yeah.
They kind of like venture into that zone a little bit there.
Well, I mean, Death Grips with Zach Hill is just another level of. I mean, that guy's just soloing nonstop on drums.
Oh, you see, I've never seen him.
Live, it's different than the.
I'd
than
love
the
to see
record.
him. Oh, yeah.
I mean, so I would love to. We need to get Zach on one of these podcasts because I would love to pick his brain because I'm pretty sure he helps produce that music, but live he just fucking shreds beyond belief
On drums.
on drums.
Oh man, I want to see it so bad. That's wow.
I mean, he's one of my favorites. Have you ever seen him perform? He was in Hella. And,
Oh no kidding!
he
I
actually-
did not know that.
Yeah. But there's this, if you ever get a chance, he did a Vans commercial that is probably the best, capitalist endeavor I've ever seen, where like, he's like, the commercial, he's like cruising up these cliffs and he's barefoot or whatever. And he like cuts his foot or something. And then he reaches in his car and grabs one slip-on van and puts it on, and then fucking starts ripping on this drum set that's on the cliff, overlooking this ocean, and it's like the most beautiful, coolest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Whoa.
It's the best commercial. It like makes me think like,
Yeah,
okay,
who wrote that one? That's a good one
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Huh.
Anyhow, yeah. So,
Wow. Now I want to see him even more.
but
Jeez.
I love that like differentiation between like the canned and non-canned. It's
No, certainly, and that was a part of that. Right. Okay. So back to where I was going with that is. So both those are kind of going at the same time. I think Geronimo was first, and then I think we did Rogue. And,
but you just sat on that Geronimo record for a minute.
well, just so who's going to put it out? No one's stupid enough to put that thing out. So, anyways,
That was literally the last thing of that whole tour. You were like, "Oh, hey, by the way, you want to check this out?" And like, you gave me the CD, and I just remember thinking like, "This is probably gonna be really fucking good," because I think you had just released that Bastard Noise record on Gravity, and I was like, "This is the fucking."
oh,
coolest
isn't that
shit.
funny? Right, and that was just like
It was after the Phoenix show. You were just like, "Here, check this out," and I was like, "Okay." And I remember getting home, still on a CD, so I didn't listen to it until 7 hours later until we got home, and I was like, "Oh shit." Like, I need to get that guy on the horn because this is it.
I met Brian Eno once. I gave one to him. He never called me.
But you know what though? I maybe he didn't listen to it, but I feel like if Brian Eno did, he
would know who's the boss. He would know. But anyways, okay. So back to that. So when we were doing that, there was a bunch of stuff, and it was really clear, and it was mostly, the funny thing is, it was mostly me and Anthony working with Michael, and we would sit on this church pew he had, and he had cats too, and he's like, "I'll vacuum up." I'm deathly allergic to the cats, but I would recovery for like 3 weeks. I'd be coughing. Anyways, we sat there and watched him and just had this interaction, and he was like this other member of the band, and so we really tuned up that, so that with him producing it basically. And figured out how to do that. And then what happened was I was like, how can I play this now? Because we had recorded it, we had done it, but there was things that he added to it and things that he could do that I hadn't ever thought of, that all between him and Anthony and me all bouncing it off each other.
He was canning it.
It wasn't that. It was just some of the edits and things where like things were more, it was just more cohesive in some places, and more, that guy's the king of the crescendo.
Yeah.
Right. That drops you into just, whatever.
I mean, that first track has that on there.
Of course. Yeah. And just, so then it was like, okay, how can we make it live sound like that? And so that super inspired the Trogotronic thing, because I thought, well, I got to make gear to do that.
Whoa.
So that's when I started getting more foot pedals. And I think I already had stuff, but it really informed, that experience informed where it went. And all this time I've been fighting to really like explore interfaces, for lack of a better word, beyond just knobs. So knobs and buttons, and then the way that the buttons work, and then things that can trigger buttons, and all this other stuff. There's the rack mount stuff for the patch cord bunch, and there's power stuff for them, and then there's cases, and then there's other stuff. But the core to me is, which really, whatever, some people could care less, is this other stuff where I could get these great sounds out of it, but the interface, and I'm just starting now. I've been doing this for pretty much better part of 20 years now, just starting to hit it right now where it's actually starting to work the way I always imagined it could work. Just because my skill level has gone up as I keep messing around with this stuff. It's like, oh, well, if I could add this, and I've just started kind of hitting it now, where it's actually finally working. Like everything isn't totally, kind of rigged together.
Sure.
It's kind of amazing, actually. But, that gets back to, why does this sound like this and this sounds like that? It really, a lot of it had to do with Roseon. And so Anderson recorded that one, but then we took them tapes and took it back to Roseon. So, I mean, that dude, and it's not just like, it's not something where the beautiful thing about that guy is it's like working with Anthony and Mo, because we have this whole kind of, you know how it is when you work with people and you have a really safe space. And you could be like, dude, that sucks. And no one's like heard about it, right?
Yeah.
Or like here, try this, and everyone, like, even if you think it's like, dude, this, because there's definitely situations that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But everyone will try it first. Like, everyone's going to give everything a chance. And Michael is that same person. So he's like this other sort of member of the band when he gets behind the board there, where, we all have the safe space. It's not a problem. No one, we can joke about it.
Yeah. Nobody
has this emotional, like, fragility about it. Everyone's cool. And everyone's willing to give it a chance. And if there's an absolute veto and someone's just gotta have it, that everyone has the safe enough space to go, cool. I still think it sucks, but have fun. And no one's really, like, it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
And that guy really is kind of has definitely, made that the way it is. Not just the way that those records sound, but also the way that my electronics actually are. I mean, it's really informed by that guy, definitely, and what he's brought to it. So, yeah, it's amazing guy. You need to, you ever get a chance, I highly
work with that
recommend
guy.
it. Yeah. He's just so easygoing, and so that's what is that worth?
Well, that's the thing is, like, would he be a producer or a mixer, or what would you consider him?
I mean, he's an engineer, but we always give him production. I mean, he's definitely a producer.
So, I mean, that's the thing is, though, like, any kind of person you end up working with, you do learn something from that, even if it's the band or aside, if studio person, if they're actually in it. I mean, I've done like a shitload of records with a certain engineer that didn't give a fuck about anything. He just pushed play and record and whatever. But when you have someone like kind of in it with you, like, hey, let's try this, or maybe you could do that better. Like, I fucking love when Luke gives me a hard time and like, try it again. You could do it better. And I'm like, okay, because I don't know how that sounds, or I do think that sucked. And they're like, no, that was good. So it is nice to have that person, an extra person push
that you trust, and and it's got to be a two-way street, Michael one time famously he there was some band in there and they were like, no, it can't be this way, and they were just like, just sandbagging him, and they were like a day in, and he's like, here, look, here's the tapes, here's $100, just like, are we cool?
Yeah.
Like, just go away, please, I'm sorry, it sounds great, but
wow,
because so he's definitely, his heart's in everything there,
which you would hope everybody's heart is in it, but sometimes
but then some people, I mean, dude, it's hard to make a living doing that now.
Yeah.
So, those that are, certainly they take on stuff that they just, had no feeling for. Mm-hmm. And, which is, it's kind of a shame.
Yeah.
I guess. But, I get it, I guess. But I'm awful lucky. No doubt about it.
Huh.
And what I get to do, so.
And then what about like the aesthetic of all your stuff? Because it's always like red and silver and black, and there is a visual component to what you do.
So I went to the fancy art school and I studied graphic design.
Okay.
Which is funny because all these when I finally learned how to make the circuit boards, it's a print process. So like the stuff that Matt Anderson's doing down there, right? Because he's a printer, isn't he?
Not anymore, but yeah.
But so he knows that. So it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's you have different plates and so that it's funny how that ported into that. So yeah, I definitely I have the thing that I'm up to. I used to work in magazines And yeah, so I just it's just sort of something I got going on. And then in the red, they ran out of black paint one time. It was always black, of course. And then when the guy goes, well,
You did like black on black, even like matte and like gloss black.
oh, you're talking about the record covers, or are you talking
No.
about
Some of those pedals were like black on black, or like
I don't know.
Or you gave me one like, or just like the raw like metal ones, like it just.
Yes. Well, those at that time I wasn't doing circuit boards. I was doing everything point to point, just soldering stuff together on like little maybe like Radio Shack kind of prototype boards, which was incredibly labor intensive. And then I had this friend, bless her heart, she had this trophies shop in Long Beach, and I could ride my bicycle over there, and it was, what do they call that?
An engraver.
Engrave the logo there on this really weird machine, and then pretty soon I got good at the machine, so I'd come in and help her with stuff, and we would just trade, like I would troubleshoot for her or whatever. So that was the first thing, because I just buy those little, the pedal boxes and just do that. Now I use them, the PCB guys, because it's like they pull silk screens, and you got all these layers. So you got the solder mask layer, that's a color, and then you got this other silkscreen legend layer, and you could probably do more stuff. Then you got a copper layer, and then some of it you could put solder on. There's a lot of layers, and since it's so competitive, it's priced. It's incredible, kind of. That's what's really opened it up. I think that's what's launched a lot of pedal companies there, is that now, it used to be something so brutal that the labor was cheaper to fix a board and just keep the boards. Back in the day, when it was all done by hand with like ruby lathe and stuff like that, and now they've really it's just a bunch of computer gobbledygook there,
to make the board to sound a certain way, like this is command
sound or look. See, that's the thing is since it's a printing process, you could make art out of them, really.
Wow.
Which is kind of neat, because like trying to get someone to silkscreen something on a shirt, they're gonna charge you an arm and a leg. You take it to a board shop, and they're like, "Yeah, silkscreen's included."
Yeah.
What do you want on that layer? Yeah, it's a funny thing. It's just the matter of like porting that to their weird computer language.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about with that one pedal thing. I was trying to figure out like, okay, can we get a different? Because sometimes it's like, why isn't it working? I don't know. Where if it was an Adobe product, it would be simple.
Oh.
Like desktop publishing is. In other words, like making print graphics for magazines. There's a company, Adobe, and they make all this different stuff, right? And it just works because that's all they do. But this other stuff wasn't ever designed to put like a logo on it. It's just supposed to be like R1, R2 for which resistor it is and all that. So yeah, there's a bit of circuit bending the circuit board there, I guess, if you will. But there are some builders out there that do stuff. I think I can't remember their names there, but some of it's just gorgeous, gorgeous. Yeah.
But so your operation's pretty one person for the most part.
I guess now that
can people?
No one can be 1099 in this scene. I think it is pretty much one person. I'm just juggling.
Well, I don't think the tax guys.
Oh, you never know.
The
they got abacuses. They have. It's not the IRS.
Okay, but if someone buys a pedal, you're the one that made it.
Oh yeah, and if someone has a problem, I'm the guy who picks up the phone or calls them back, since the phone doesn't really work.
Or if you have like some bullshit like the Schumann PLL, I'm like, hey, can you fix this again?
Then I'm poke around in there. I still don't know how I fixed that thing, but
if you even look at it wrong, the thing's gonna break.
Well, that thing was completely handmade, though.
Yeah, I know.
That was like that stuff I was doing originally. Did you meet the guy?
I did. I bought it from him, and it was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had with, I guess, a musician. It was just the strangest shit. I had no idea, and now that I know a lot about him and the sort of like what is it, like like the legend that he has become, now I'm like, oh yeah, it does all make sense that was him. And then when you tell me how it was like covered in glue and all this crazy shit inside,
which is the Dumble. You know about Dumble?
No.
So there's this guy Dumble, and he makes these guitar amps that are basically, I think, a glorified Bender or something. I don't know. But I had a friend, and her dad was like, he was a professional musician, and he had this thing. And I guess like this, I don't really know this guy's music, but John Mayer, I guess, is some mega star. He uses them. You see people out of Nashville, but they're like nearly $100,000.
Whoa.
And supposedly you go in and he will tune it to you, and he still is the only guy making them. Like, he's very protective of it, and he was the guy, I think, originally. And Henry's really, like, he knows all about it. I mean, what there is to know, because some of it's covered in glue and some of it ain't. And
is that like a tactic to hide what you're doing?
Yes, certainly. Because, I mean, you know, it's a lot of work to kind of figure it out. So, and since if you're not Roland or Fender or whatever, and even Fender back in the day, what they have the patent PAF, right? And a patent applied for. And how long is a patent good for? I think it's like 7 years. So what's the point, anyways? So yeah. I mean, for little guys, it's good to protect things, I think.
Yeah, but I wonder if like Schumann was trying to protect something because you know,
certainly.
I think I think he might have just been like totally crazy. And if
no,
like
Fox.
Well, okay, like I understand you, and you have this like graphic design element, and you have like a very meticulous kind of way. When I met him, there was just like shit everywhere.
Yeah.
He was kind of just like,
that's my office too. Yeah.
He was kind of just like, here, check this out, and like, you know, and like never, like he kind of like dove into his spiel. And I was lost instantly. It's like when you go to learn a new language, and if you don't know how to conjugate a verb, you're in, you know, next thing you know, like week 6, you're like, I'm completely lost.
Yeah, but he was just trying to relate.
I guess
Henry used to do that to me, because he'd throw this, and it took me a long time. It probably took me 10 years, and then building that first thing to where I could figure out what he was talking about. Now we can carry on a conversation, and I would just be polite originally and just kind of go like, okay, wow. Yeah. You know,
well, I mean,
and he would just go for it. He didn't care. He would just, you know, like, oh, well, that's a, you know, and he'd be rattling off model numbers, and you're like, what? It was amazing, kind of between him and then Wood would do the same thing with bands, you know. So you had these two guys kind of coming at you.
Wood
it's just
talks
like,
to me. I'm like, where are we going? Like, what is this? I'm already lost.
It's just deep. Just the deep knowledge with those two, you know, and they love it so much they want to talk about it.
I know.
And I've seen part of the Schumann spiel somewhere. I saw like
an interview or something.
Yes, yes, and what he was saying is like some of the same stuff that I've kind of like come to the conclusion of on my end, which is like, you know, some people, they're just not going to understand.
Yeah,
and so screw it. Why even bother trying to explain it to them in a way?
I mean, I have no idea how it happened, but I went to this. I needed something from a guitar store. The Locust was on tour, and I had to buy like something. I don't know, something simple, like like strings, or I don't fucking remember. But I don't know how this happened. But the guy at the store was like, "Oh, you should check out this thing that this dude's building." And so he was like, "Oh, here he is
in Brooklyn."
Yeah, and he brought me in the back. He sat down, he played guitar. He was like, "Here, try it out." And I was like, "What the fuck? This is so crazy." And I was playing it through a guitar, and I remember at the time it was $500, and that's a lot of money then, and it still is a lot now. But I was like, "This is some crazy." But it was one of those things. I was like, "This is gonna write the song. Like this is. I don't have to like this."
Oh,
is
that
incredible.
thing sounded good, and it's pretty intuitive. It seemed like when you played through it, it just did what you thought it. Yeah, it just did it.
Well, that's the thing though. So I mean, I think Earthquaker did a fantastic job of I guess cloning. I don't know if that sounds like a bad term to use.
No, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think out of all the clones, they got the closest. I just don't know if anyone's going to ever really make it the same. It's just slightly different. I mean,
which begs the question. Yeah, what is it?
Well, I don't know.
What is it?
Well, then why would he cover it in glue? And do you do that, or like why would you not do that? Or
I only put glue on stuff
to hold it together.
Yeah, my dad, he used to make missiles, and he's like, "Oh, they're going to vibrate." So you got to put, if something's hanging out, then you got to glue it. But I do on some stuff, I do grind the numbers off.
Wow.
Pound sand. And because of that whole, I mean, the other thing is I got this whole deal where like there are people out there. Early on when I started building this stuff, there's one guy who came at me with like this thing like, you say it's all tube, but there's diodes in there. Now diodes are a semiconductor of sorts, and the diodes. This thing had a meter on it. Remember that thing I built? And
it had a meter on it. Yeah.
And then one of them had a window, but that's where the meter went, right? And I was like, but those aren't even in the circuit. And this guy's like writing this stuff about me. I thought that, like, God, what a cheeser. And then
was the meter?
So after that, I thought, you know, this guy thinks he knows what he's talking about. He has no idea. And sometimes that happens. You know, you go to buy something, you read up on it, you read all this stuff, and you think you understand it.
Yeah.
But all you know is all the buzzwords that the marketing guys threw at you. And so, you know, you try to educate people here and there and whatever. And I just try to be a straight shooter with stuff. I figure, hey.
Well, was that meter? Was that meter an actual component that made it sound a certain way?
Nope.
It was an aesthetic?
No, it was a piece of test equipment.
But The meter
so the
itself.
meter was it was not made to make sound.
Yeah.
It was made to make sound, but the meter I think showed you how much
You told
the
me
amplitude.
You told me it has nothing to do with the audio output.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow,
But it was one of these early things where like someone came at it was like it was troll-ish. It wasn't a big deal. And then this guy had like this thing on CD Baby. Remember CD Baby?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, here he is. The CD sucks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then he shut off the comments there, and I was like, okay, well, tit for tat. So
Yeah.
I just was like kind of like, and some people, boy, they will insist, and it really. Have you heard about this thing, the Dunning-Kruger effect? Are you guys up to this?
I don't know.
So they did this experiment. These psychologists or something, and they had a whole bunch of people. They do these things at colleges like that. That's how they messed up some say that's how they messed up the Unabomber, right? But they do this stuff at a college, and they had some test, and they asked people after the test, how do you think you did? Now, some people said I aced it, and other people were like, I don't know, I don't think I did so good. And then they ran kind of how they did on the test and juxtaposed that with what they said. And it turned out, and this is the thing, that the people who thought they didn't do good aced it. And the people who thought they did the greatest, now you know this, they ate it, man.
Yeah.
It didn't work. So this is this thing where it's the whole know-it-all thing where you got these people who have more moxie than sense, and they just they'll tell you stuff that they don't even know what they're talking about.
Well, and
it's like they're arguing with the drunk or something,
But there's also the fact that they took the time to go talk a bunch of shit. Like, who really gives a fuck about that guy's opinion? In the real world.
I was deeply hurt.
Of course, but
I didn't come out for weeks.
Really?
Or only no, I don't know. I was pissed. I
Yeah.
was like, dude, why? First of all, why? Why are you raining on my parade? I'm doing my best I can here.
Well, I don't know. It's like,
And then I was like, and then when I realized, like, well, wait a minute, this isn't even. Yeah, what?
but
that's for the
but he's
meter.
talking. At least he's talking. Like, when people are indifferent, then
Of
that's,
course, no, you're
that-
absolutely
yeah.
right. There's no bad. Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, like, for every, I doubt that many people saw his criticism, but like, let's say out of every 10 people that saw his criticism, 5 of them went and like checked out your gear and was like, "Whoa, this is some gnarly shit. I'm gonna pick one up." And
Or like this is the dumbest thing ever. But
maybe,
Yeah.
but either way, it got you more attention.
No, and that's totally true to a certain point. I think unless I mean, there's definitely some stuff that is somewhat unforgivable these days, and all that. But
I mean, it's getting worse with social media. Everyone's a critic.
well, and of course, that stuff's all tuned for. It's just like the 11 o'clock news. It was always the same stuff. It's just that it's us,
Yeah.
and we're the 11 o'clock news. So it's like everything is tuned to be sensational. Yeah. I mean, as far as like they say the algorithms, right? The
Yeah.
stuff that you're going to notice is the stuff that's going to like evoke emotion.
Oh yeah.
And
That gets people juiced up.
yeah, which I can't even do that. I can't. A, the time, and B, just you can feel it. You can feel it juicing you, really, one way or the other. And my problem with it is I've like like once or twice, like just ribbing somebody or whatever, and then they don't know where you're coming from. They think, well, geez, that was kind of intense, or whatever. So I just I can't even. I
always want to have a fake profile to just kind of level with people and not seem like it's me getting bent out of shape. Like,
sure.
That would be ideal.
It's a funny thing. It's just a funny moment, with this stuff.
Sure. And you're in like a very obscure realm of art that people are probably always going to have some fucking opinion on,
I don't think anyone cares. Yeah, I think there's people who are into it and people who aren't, and there's other people who buy the other stuff that's strictly a commodity.
Well, speaking of like, let's say Geronimo, like from a music, like a label's perspective. Granted, we're not a big label, and the world doesn't get to hear it, or doesn't.
Sure.
But the people that hear it, fucking love it, or completely do not understand it and think it's probably shitty. But that's great. Instead of someone being like, whatever.
Well, we're the Steely Dan of the
I don't know. I would rather not be like a part of a background, just like whatever song, like at least you can.
Because isn't Steely Dan like that kind of?
I don't know.
Do you like Steely Dan?
I don't know if I do.
So you hate Steely Dan? Do you like Steely Dan?
I do. I mean, whatever.
Okay, let me ask you this: do you love Steely Dan? You kind of do, don't you?
I love a few. Yeah,
You kind of do.
I love a lot of their moments. Their
See,
albums.
I think Steely Dan is one of they're just a very polarizing band.
Well, okay. What about the songs that you do like of Steely Dan? Do you think that there's a possibility that could be nostalgia, like the time that you?
Or is
grew
it
up?
just Michael McDonald's vocals?
Yeah. I mean, his voice is.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think to me, it's just, it is something that just, the sound quality is fucking awesome. And the music is great. I mean, fuck, what's that song? Do It?
What's that? Which one's that now?
Sing it.
Fuck. Now I can't. I hear it in my, I listen to it like once a week when I'm running.
Really?
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
But
Which record?
He's, Do It Again. It's the one where it's like has all the percussion in the beginning.
Do It Again is
It's
the
off
Wall of
of,
Voodoo record.
It's off of. Well,
What else is on the record?
Anyways,
No one listens to records anymore.
yeah.
Oh, I do.
I'm joking.
Well,
It's a famous song.
Virtually.
it's on my
Anyways,
Spotify playlist.
Even I'm not a big fan of guitar solos unless they're slow and low and like more melodic. But the crazy guitar solos. But this has just the clangiest, cheesiest guitar solo, and then a organ solo just intertwines.
is it organ or Rhodes?
It's the organ.
Huh.
Yeah.
Shoot, man, that's tickling my cortex of the do it again. Do it again, do it again. Whoa. Well, I'm a fan. But I have noticed that people, I think Rush is another one of those bands. People either love it or they hate it.
Yeah. That's definitely
Right?
a love.
Okay, but you know what my problem with Rush is? That everyone thinks they're the fucking best thing ever, and I'm like, dude, just
to the people who love it.
the people are just like, what? Like, it's fine, like that's cool, but like, so it's probably not even Rush that I don't like. It's that I don't like
those people.
what they have become.
Rush fans.
They're yeah.
No, I don't know. Yeah, I just noticed that.
But it's not
I'm
it's
kind
not
of
Rush's
fascinated. Who can say, really? I like him.
Like,
myself. See,
Gigi Allen, like his fans were pretty fucking lame. Was Gigi Allen? No, that's a bad example.
He was probably pretty polarizing though.
Yeah, I think that he might.
I'm just not into people who are going to destroy my gear.
Yeah, or take a
Yeah.
shit and throw it at me. But
Yeah, that's where I draw the line. I might watch it on a video there though and be totally psyched, but
I do like that we talked about Steely Dan and Gigi Allen right back to back.
well, that's yeah.
Well, okay, so what do you have going on now? I mean, there was the recent Geronimo album that came out, but what else are you working on, or what pedal stuff do you have going on, or what's in your world?
Well, now there's a new interfacey thing that makes absolutely no sound, but I just sent one to Kenny. I sent one to Jay Randall. You know that guy?
No.
He does. He's part of or involved with the Agoraphobic Nosebleed and a bunch of other weird things, I believe. But and that's a new thing that's coming, and sort of is like kind of trickling out there. I'm going to take out an ad, and someone talked me to that. I used to work on this magazine Arthur. You ever see that? And the guy I used to work
What'd you
with
do
there
for that magazine?
I art directed it. For
Wow.
the first when it started up until probably 06, 07, something like that. Yeah, that's my baby there.
So I can kind of see like a relation to maybe the Geronimo artwork and stuff.
All of
too.
it,
Yeah.
probably. You're gonna see, yeah, because
Very,
the
like-
cool thing about that gig was part of the deal was I could do what I wanted, and that was a trade off. So I kind of cut him a deal, but I could do what I wanted, and up until that kind of ended there, the do what I want part, then. Yeah, no, I mean it's neat, I mean, it was one of those things where it was sort of startup-y. I mean, there were only 3 people involved that were really there, and then the rest was just people kind of all coming
Contributing,
together.
yeah.
So it was really, there was never enough time, there was never enough space. The editor was famous for just he loved the content so much, that it's like, okay, well, just make it fit, it's like, well, dude, it's already like a disclaimer size type here,
Yeah.
like, No, man, you can't. You're the editor. You
Yeah.
gotta edit. No, man, this is a good one. You know.
That's so rad, though.
Oh yeah, no, it was fun. That was a fun project there. But anyways, where was I going with that?
I don't know.
Thing?
Oh, what's next for you? You're gonna take out an ad.
Oh yes. So Laris, the publisher, was selling ads for this thing, Maggot Brain. You ever heard of Maggot Brain? I
No.
guess it's another part of Jack White's empire there.
It's a publication.
It is. So he's like, oh, well, I'm doing this. I thought, well, shoot, I'll help him out with his, whatever. I don't know if he gets a commission or how.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but whatever. That's a tough gig, trying to sell stuff. And it's print. So, and then the guy who helped me invent this thing, Doug, you know Doug. So Doug here, he one day he calls me, he says, you know what you need like a skateboard wheel.
Oh, gear with a
Yeah.
wheel on it.
Yes. He's like, what if you had a skateboard wheel?
To
I'm
do
like,
what? Like turn the wheel as like a knob?
I don't know what the idea was in his head, but I had an idea in my head for this, just kind of like being able to switch stuff really fast. And it kind of pissed me off because I had all this stuff that I needed to do, but then I had to have one. I just wanted to see it work. And now it's working. And so that's the next thing. It's called the C36.
And it has a skateboard wheel on it.
Revolution, yes. It has a skateboard wheel on it. And it's kind of a beauty. Anyway, so follow, what's that guy's name there? Sanderson there. Definitely, he just put a video up on, and it's very laid back there as far as like he hasn't even scratched the surface of what this thing's going to do, because he is a master of, like I said, this kind of cut up crazy noise.
Yeah.
And so he was just like barely touching it. And,
Well, I mean,
and
that's
it's there on I think it's Kenny Sanderson and look him up, like Weeds or Facial Mess. It's on there somehow.
It is amusing when people try to sell their gear and you're like, this is like, you could be going to town on this thing and you're kind of just like, eh.
But I'm such a huge fan of Kenny's that it sounds so good what he's doing through it. And the funny thing is it doesn't make sound anyways, so it's really hard to explain to people.
Okay.
It's like, remember that joystick thing I had?
Yeah, which was awesome.
So I made that, and then I offered it, and no one bought it for all these years. And now all these other people like kind of ripped off that idea because it's easy to make. I mean, it's labor intensive, but so this is kind of the next stage of that. And then we're talking about going back in the studio, Geronimo, and there's another record kind of, I think, ready to go too. So we're talking about maybe over the winter there. So we'll see if that happens. It depends on everybody's schedule.
Yeah.
And getting that together, going back in with Rose on. And then I'm doing this other thing called TTT, which is kind of like the Carney A idea. So we changed the T's to other stuff with this guy, Enrique, that lives in, I think, Madrid. And then I'm doing some other stuff. There's some guy down here called, have you guys heard of this guy, Janky Funeral?
No, it's a good name, though.
I know. I like the name so much, I just wrote to him. I said, if you don't do this split with me, there's going to be a fatwa upon all of your pets. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it, man. So that, and other than that, just nose of the grindstone, just kind of, just working.
Yeah.
Trying to get more stuff out, more time for R&D there. So one step at a time.
Yeah. All right, dude.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having.
Yeah, that was cool.
Colton Culture is proudly sponsored by Earthquaker Devices.
Planet B.
Colton Culture is a Ruinous Media podcast, proudly sponsored by Earthquaker Devices, Heartwork Coffee, Fender, and Diodario.
Planet B.